This isn't about the end of a career, it's about the beginning of a new chapter. So today I have Babaji with me, aka my father in law, to talk about his retirement. He retired 2 years ago, and ever since then, he's been getting so many questions from all of his friends and a lot of family members as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump a lot of these questions on him, and we'll go from there. So to start off, Mr. Mahmoudul Khan, do you want to talk a little bit about how you've been staying busy since retirement, and just talk us through your journey of retirement too?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Alina, for the very, very important question. And yes, you are right. People do ask this question the moment someone retires. And I know I have asked people also, right? Obvious question is like, how are you spending your time now that you're retired? So when I was not retired, when I heard someone asking someone that question, it sounded very logical. But when people started asking me, I was like, oh my God, what's a good answer for this? What are they looking to hear from me, right? Are they trying to hear if I'm doing some formal work? That was what was bothering me a little
Yeah.
bit. Are they trying to see if I am doing something worthwhile in a general sense, like something
Yeah.
something really significant, contributing to the society or something? Most people don't do that. So most people have a relaxed, retired life and whatever.
Or are you just sitting at home and
Yeah,
napping?
true, true. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So some people just think, and maybe if you do also that, okay, now that this person retired, he or she actually takes a lot of rest and wakes up very late and does everything at a delayed schedule and whatnot. So whether someone does that or not, maybe people do. But the point is, in general, the first answer is that one obviously has a lot of time to do things, right? But for a person who is as structured as I am, retired life is still, I have a routine that I go through, and you live in this house and
Yeah.
you know part of it also, right? So I did not think about retirement as a time where I could sleep more. I still sleep a little more because when I was working, I had to wake up maybe around 6 o'clock. Now I still wake up at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock in the morning, and people think, "Oh my God, you are retired. Why do you wake up at 7 o'clock?" So that's my personal thing, right? So people take retirement in different ways and whatever. Some people really wait for retirement because they have like major hobbies of sports or going out hiking, and even contributing towards society by doing many voluntary stuff. And though those things are there, people have now time to do it. That's one thing. And the other thing is like as far as I am concerned, I did not plan that I would do this or I would do that when I retired. So when I actually got into retirement, I started thinking that how should I spend my time. And most often it was not something that I really planned for, but some of the things that I really do is like I read books. I always used to read books, but obviously when you have a full time job and stuff like that, you don't get that much time to read books, right? So one of the things is that I read books, and my interest in books is very 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 wide, starting from politics to health to sports and whatnot. One thing that really interests me has been of interest to me for the last couple of years, even before I retired, was in the area of neuroscience. So when I say that, I'm not doing a course in neuroscience and
Yeah.
whatever, but I just try to understand the brain and whatnot. Because as we age, we have memory issues and stuff like that, and I'm very interested to know like what causes these things at different age, and can we do something or not. And some of the easier things, neuroscience is a huge
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a complicated area and whatnot. I'm not qualified to talk more about that, but the point is there's easy things in every subject, every areas that is for like more or less like average Joe, right? So that's where my interest is, to understand about neuroscience and read. And so far, I've been finding it very interesting. And that's one area. The other thing that I told you and other family members and few friends is that I have been thinking about writing a book. This was a little bit before I retired, and I did work on it a little bit over the past almost 2 years, but it doesn't move too much for me. I don't know. There's a when I move out from one project to the other, I think I find it difficult to come back to it. And sometimes thinking that all that I wrote is all that I know about what I wanted to write. So that is also there. I have done some work, as I said, but I don't think it's even 10% of what I wanted to do. But eventually, God willing, I will end up writing a book. It's a very interesting area that I wanted to write about. It's not technical, it's not statistics, it's not sports, it's kind of personal life. It's not autobiography, but it's about some major events that happened during the course of my life. And it has like, it we talk about like not only myself, but the world at that time in Bangladesh and US and whatever be it, right? So that's another area, as I said, I have that in my mind, and hopefully I will get more time to do that. Beyond that, as you also know, that I'm a very ardent sports fan, and we just finished the World Cup. So, as an example, I got so much time to watch games,
Yeah.
at home or whether it be on the ground, whatever. Say at home, like there's so many games people cannot watch while they're working, right? So some of the games were during our daytime, 12 noon, 3 o'clock. So I had a good time, watching. And even after the World Cup football is over, there are other sports that I follow. So these are a couple of things that I'm doing. I used to think about teaching, and then I thought that teaching very informally. I didn't want to go into like very very difficult high level stat and whatever. But I wanted to teach at the basic level and whatever, even at like undergraduate level, stuff like that. Not more than that, to give like basic training on stuff like that. That's in my mind, but I don't know how much I can end up doing it. But basically, reading and then thinking about the book, and last but not the least, what we are doing now, the podcast. I know you are the main person here, but
No, for sure. I don't think anyone.
I also think about it. I also, you and I talk about the topics and whatever. It's not a huge deal, but again, because I'm retired, I have more time. I can even think about a topic, right? It's not like these are like very serious stuff. As we already said, it's a family type program that we are doing here. Like, so we are not experts, but we just talk about from our life experience, young and old, whatever, what we are seeing around. But the thing is, like, I also think about the podcast and how it's going, what we can do, what are the topics, who we can bring, and stuff like that. So, long answer to a short question.
No, thank you. And I'm very excited to read your book, once it comes out, God willing.
Yeah.
And no, I think you're the star here on this podcast. And I think we all would agree with that. But my next question, I know I'm aware that you wake up early, right? Despite not having to wake up for a 9 to 5 role. My question, or at least a lot of the questions that you've been getting is, why is it? Like, how do you feel that you no longer have to wake up at 6 a.m., right, to get to work, but rather like you're waking up early to start your daily routine? How is that any different? Like, how have you been feeling with that?
Yeah, I'm nodding my head quite vigorously because, I appreciate the question. And yes, you're right. Even if I'm saying that I'm waking up early, but it's still like, half an hour to 1 hour later than what I used to wake up when I was working. So that and waking up first thing, what I used to do when I was working, well, I had such bad habits. Before I got off the bed, I used to check my work email on my phone, right? So if there are like 20 emails, because some of them are from Europe, so they're already halfway down in their day, right? So you start off even before brushing your teeth with stress, right?
Yeah.
This question, that question, are you prepared for this? Are you ready? Did you do this? Did you do that? Good or bad, that's not the thing, but you start off with that thing. That thing is, of course, not there. So that's a reduction of stress, definitely, no question. Did I not like my work? Of course, I like my work, but the fact remains that, work has stress associated with it built in. You cannot say, okay, there will not be any stress, someone will just come and deposit your salary in a bank. That does not happen. That it does not work like that, right? So from that perspective, yes, I enjoy the fact that early in the morning, I think about how my day, the difference is from other people, maybe I still think about how my day will go. I'm not like, okay, I woke up. Okay, let me do my stuff. Let me have breakfast. Let me walk a little bit. Not that, I still have a planning, even if have not written it down. Sometimes I do write down on my calendar also. I need to call this person. I have to do this. I need to work on podcast. I actually do that, Alina. You know that, right?
Yeah.
I write those things up. So that gives me something to think about without being, this cannot be stressful.
So let's just talk a little bit about your career transition now, right? So back in the day, you used to teach, you used to be a professor, and then you transitioned into more of that corporate world.
Right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the differences? Like, why is it that you made that transition? And then how did you feel after?
Okay. It was kind of, it was not planned that way. It happened, as a natural consequence of our, moving to this country. When I was in Bangladesh, yes, I was, out and out a professor or whatever you call it, not full-fledged professor, but in a generic sense professor. I was an assistant professor. But yes, I used to teach at the universities. I was teaching at the university for a few years, and then we came back here. I could have pursued a job in teaching, but I really, honestly, I would say that I chose to do what I did later on for mainly two reasons. Right, one is that I wanted to. This is a technical part.
Yeah.
I wanted to explore something different. When I was teaching, like at least in our time, you would basically look at your book, standard textbooks and whatnot, and you would, explain to the students. You'd sometimes write on the board, give handouts and whatnot. But it was more and more theoretical as far as I'm concerned. I know things have changed even in Bangladesh nowadays. I'm talking about 30, 35 years back when I used to teach there. But I thought in myself that I'm lacking the understanding of the practicality of the subject. Okay, I would say, okay, I would say the students to solve this problem and that problem, but that's like a set problem that I've given them. They're basically just numerically giving me the answers with calculators and computers and laptops and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But here, you have to find the solution first. The answer is later on.
Yeah.
This is a real life problem. This is data. You analyze it, whether pharmaceutical data or economic data or business data, whatever, right? This is the real deal. This is the data. When we see in a book, it's like printed numbers. They're still data, but you'll actually collect. You have not collected yourself. But that feeling I never had before, even while I was a teacher, let alone a student. So I thought I would get that experience when I came to the United States, and I looked for a this type of an applied job,
Yeah.
whether it would be pharmaceutical, whatever in industry it'd be, right? So that's one of the reasons. The second reason, and I'm very black and white about all of these things,
Very.
is financial.
Yeah.
Right. I had just migrated with myself and my two older kids.
Yeah.
It was not going to be possible, even if I did get a job in the teaching arena. I don't know even if I would have gotten one. Even if I did, we know that teaching jobs nowhere pays much, right? So I migrated to this country. I have two young kids, a wife, and a family, as most people do. And I thought that maybe this would be making me more financially solvent. But when I was in Bangladesh, I could still have been in the private sector. It did not occur to me. Teaching is such a passion.
Yeah.
Teaching is so much fun. Only those who have taught and like to teach would know what that means.
Yeah. I used to like to teach when I was
I know.
younger.
I know.
I used to invite all of the kids who were like my neighbors, and I used to pretend like I was a teacher and like have them take quizzes and tests and
Yeah.
whatnot. But it's definitely a fun subject, or at least if you're teaching a fun
You have to have
subject.
passion for that.
Right.
And like you said, just to interrupt you a little bit,
Yeah.
that younger people can also do. You're a young person, you can do. When I was teaching, I was a young person also. I was like 27, 28 years old when I first got my job, or I've been 26, 27 years old, right? I was teaching in the university. But that passion was there, that fire was there in the belly, right?
Yeah.
And as I often say, and I think to myself when I was, preparing for this podcast, that, I have earned, quite a good amount of, salary here when I was working, like everyone else does, nothing more, nothing less. But that never gave me that satisfaction which I would get when I was teaching. And one concept to one student, I'm not dramatizing it, right? One concept to one student. Why? Then I know that the student didn't know something before
Yeah.
I taught him or her.
Yeah.
Now this person understands. It's not a memorize. Okay,
Right.
please go and look at that and memorize. Go to ChatGPT, go to Google. Everything is available there. In those days, they were not there to explain why this is how this is coming from this. The deduction and whatnot and all those things. Those things has a different kind of feeling which you cannot measure in
Yeah.
dollars and whatever.
Yeah, and what advice would you give someone
Mm.
who is on their way to retirement, or maybe they're about to retire? What advice would you give to them?
First of all, I would like to think about one of my senior brothers here who used to tell us, like, when we were like, it was like 15, 20 years easily, maybe even 25 years back. He used to tell us that, are you guys, he was like only 3 or 4 years older than me. He used to say, are you guys thinking about retirement? I said, why is he asking me this question, retirement? But he was talking about retirement planning, not that you're retiring in 5 years or 10 years. It's like retirement planning. So that's, I do appreciate him even now, thinking that he was such far-sighted and whatever. Yes, you have to think about retirement. One of the things is the financial side. People have these 401ks and this and that. The deduction that you have, your own money, you invest, you do this, you do that. I don't want to go into the details, but I'm not an expert. But The point being, you should, God willing, we don't know how long we will live, 30, 40, 50, what age, we'll be here until, but we have to have a plan that, I want to retire at this age and that age. But having said that, this you do in a generic fashion. That's what I would say, right? People should, even at your age, you start planning, right? You're not going to say, I'm going to retire in 20 years, 30 years, but say, okay, if I did retire in 10 years, where would I be? If
Yeah.
now you can
Yeah,
calculate these things
absolutely.
also. In 20 years, where would I be? Would I want a change in career in between? That's a side thing that I'm saying. But beyond that, it has to be very personal, as you would expect, because it depends on one's financial situation. Some
Yeah.
people may be already very well off, so they can retire early. Some people do not have the capacity to retire, even if they mentally want to retire. Then there's a health thing. Some young people also get sick. You are not able to work as much
Mhm.
as how should I say, efficiently, as being as productive. And you can tell
Mhm.
whether you are doing the
Yeah.
right job and whatnot, right? You cannot hide that, right?
No.
That variable is also there. And then there's also the thing that kids, like college, this, that, mortgage. We all
Yeah.
know these things,
Mhm.
right? So what I'm saying is everyone's situation is different, but don't put it away, particularly if you're in the, say, 40s or whatever. I would not so much say even 30. I know some people are very, very alert even they start working very early on, but 40s or something, things can happen, right? So you think about, what would happen to my, wife, spouse in the case of girls, husband and whatnot, or kids and whatnot, and what should I look forward to? Where should I, if I had an option? Sometimes we don't even have an option. We lose a job, right? If I had an option, when do I want to retire? At what stage of my age? And what, as I said, health
Yeah.
is also another factor.
Mhm.
So all these together, it will vary from person to person. But my basic suggestion and advice definitely is the very easy one, that you need to plan early.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the 10-year look forward basis, right? When I was a financial representative,
Mm,
the first question that we would ask a lot of the clients is really, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see
mm,
yourself in 10
mm,
years?
mm.
And then where do you see yourself 20 years from now, right?
Correct.
It's starting early. It's
Looks very
starting to
far away,
plan.
right?
Exactly. It's always that look forward basis that is so
Yeah,
important. And I
yeah,
like that you mentioned that, right?
yeah,
Even starting young,
yeah.
right? Just trying to plan things out early so you know where you'll be headed.
Don't kill yourself over
Yeah.
it, but you have to think. You cannot say, "Oh, I did not think," because
Right.
things are so hard, so
Right.
difficult. So if you have not done some planning, I'm not saying all your planning will work out, but
No.
it's better to have a plan than not
Right,
to have a plan.
exactly. Or at least like a backup plan,
Hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm.
I did want to ask you, right? And it could be more on like a personal level too, if you'd like to share.
Sure.
What is it that makes you uncomfortable about retirement?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah. So I will answer this as openly as possible. As I said, in general, it is with the question that you started with in the very beginning, like Babaji, people I know ask you about what you do. That was one thing. I was thinking to myself, I'm not giving them a very good answer, a very intelligent answer. No one told me that, but I felt
Mhm.
that I'm not giving them a very intelligent answer. It's like no, no, almost nothing. So that's one thing. And then I tried to think about these things. How should I describe what I'm doing to them? Because I think people want to hear if you're doing gardening, if you're doing something at your local community, if you're doing some part-time teaching, some of the social work. I think that people want to hear that. But when I started telling them about a book, I'm thinking about a book. Doesn't matter how many pages I wrote, 5 or 50, and that I'm doing podcast and I'm trying to read a lot. Then thinking, okay, this person has something. But that took me a while to prepare an answer. Okay, but even at the family level, like you stay with us, right? So sometime your mamoni, my wife, used to tell me how was your day, right? This is early on,
Yeah.
1 or 2 days after retirement. I was thinking, what am I going to answer? I did not do anything the whole day. Basically, it's not I'm sleeping, but I did not do much. So I was thinking that people are expecting, even close people are expecting something solid. Oh, I did this research, I did that research, whatever. So that was a little bit of thing that I was, I'm not struggling, but I was thinking that I'm not giving the right answer, very good answer, very smart answer, which I wanted to give. And sometimes people also expect at the outsiders joke that, oh, you're cooking a lot right now because your wife works, but you're not working, you're at home. And I cook, but very very little. So I'm not saying that
Well, you
I,
cook really well.
I'm not. I'm even helping my wife a lot, but that's a personal thing. Yes, but no matter what, cooking, watching YouTube's, working on podcasts, writing, thinking about the book, podcast, and reading books and what's not, you have the flexibility,
Yeah.
right? You cannot do everything, but every time I think, oh, I didn't do that, I've fallen behind. But again, I don't have a timeline or deadline.
Yeah.
I want to put some timeline deadline because otherwise it becomes an open-ended thing.
Yeah.
But that's good thing about it that you can do things at your leisure, at your pleasure.
Yeah. And what are you looking forward to in this new chapter of your life?
Yeah, that's also something that is connected to what I was saying. That my book, my hopefully it will be done one day, God willing. And then the podcast, I'm very happy with it. You and I talked about quite a bit about it in the initial podcast. We also told our audience how we started the podcast, and so I like talking, and this is one of the ways that we are doing it. Some people say that I should say this, Alina, if you don't mind, that sometimes we don't see a lot of views. Then you and I have discussed. We have discussed with Fadil. We have discussed with Lani that we will not be like super hits in this world of YouTubers. There are millions and billions basically, but we are doing
You
it.
never know.
No, that's one thing. But the other thing is like we are basically doing because we are
It's a
having
passion.
fun.
Yeah, of course.
We're having fun doing it, right? So
Yeah.
that's why we don't put a deadline that every week we do, every 2 weeks we do. Sometimes we do it one in 2-3 weeks because we have events, we have logistics issues and this and that. So yes, I am very happy with where we are, and I am going to be doing things like this. And I don't want to put any very particular target for myself, but I want to hopefully, again, God willing, do what I'm doing and see if something suddenly evolves. As I was saying early on, I did think about teaching here at a less stressful environment. I will think about it. Some people told me to again do that on YouTube, and let's see how it works.
Okay, well, this does bring us to the end of our video today. Thank you for sharing a lot about your retirement. This was very helpful to hear, and I'm sure helpful for others as well. Here's cheers to retirement. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
So I just want to say that we should. We are not so much as a professional unit, so we want to remind everyone if they like it to give a thumbs up, and then also they need to subscribe, and
Click
they
the
need
bell.
to share and hit the bell button.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you again, Alina.
Till later.
Okay, bye.